Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll call the Missoula City Council meeting of September 25th, 2017 to order. If you'd please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And please let the record note that all council members are present this evening. We have minutes from the last two meetings, September 11th and the 18th. Without objection, they'll be approved. Seeing none, we'll move on to our schedule of committee meetings. Ms. Rabine.
Well, it's going to be short. There are no committee meetings this coming week. The City Council, we do have an announcement though. The reason why we're not having committee meetings is a sizable number of council members will be attending the Montana League of Cities and Towns, which this year is being held in Great Falls, Montana at the Heritage Inn. And that starts this Wednesday and goes through Friday.
Thank you, Ms. Rabine. We will move on to the public comment portion of our agenda. This is your opportunity to comment on items not elsewhere on the agenda this evening.
Jesse Ramos, Whitaker Drive, Missoula citizen. As many of you may have read, Missoula Attorney Quentin Rhodes heard about the city's attempt to alter my public comment, and in a myriad of appearances, he cited many constitutional clauses and statutes that he, in addition to several other legal experts, believe that not allowing me to introduce my council candidate is unconstitutional. While I understand where the president is coming from, as my opponent whispered a complaint to her while I was speaking that he believed I was campaigning, it doesn't make it right or lawful. These minutes are not public time, and I'm not a public employee or elected official. This time belongs to me under the right allowed to me by the City of Missoula and the U.S. Constitution to engage in city. To suggest that I've merely been campaigning during my public comments would be unobservant and frankly insulting. I've brought up many issues that are very important to Missoula citizens, including the $25 million clerical error. In addition, I'm thrilled to announce that I will be working with the City Council to instate a Veterans Advisory Council for the City of Missoula, something that I've been talking about here for weeks. I have great respect for many members on the council and the positions that you were elected to. However, you all seem to be misinterpreting state law in this case, as the subsection 2-2-121.3 cited by Ms. Marler and Mr. Nugent applies to public employees such as yourselves, not to a private citizen such as myself. I try to be very courteous, very professional, and very constructive when speaking because I really do want to see some things changed at the city level, and many of these issues do trouble me. I am critical of things that I believe are unjust or in need of change, but I do not see myself as unreasonable. Due to the passion for the issues I speak out on, I have elected to table my constitutional right to announce myself as a candidate simply to avoid battle that ultimately detracts from the issues that I discuss. However, I do not believe that I should have to do this. I, like many Missoulians, are very uncomfortable with the position I have been put in, having to table a constitutional right for fear of being silenced and thus surrendering my positions on issues that I am most passionate about. I am not being dramatic. I am merely defending my constitutional right to free speech, and while I greatly appreciate Ms. Marler encouraging me to continue to speak up and come down to these meetings, I still believe that my rights are being infringed upon, and I feel a constitutional obligation to speak up about it. If this matter is so troubling to you, I encourage you all to debate this matter publicly and pass a resolution against announcing oneself as a candidate, because for over 6 weeks I announced myself as a candidate with no issue until 2 weeks ago when my opponent whispered to the president, which leads me to believe, and many to believe, that this is a political move. As always, I appreciate your time and consideration on this very important matter.
Thank you, Mr. Ramos. Any other general public comment this evening?
Candy Matthew Jenkins, 1211 Cooper Street. I'm continuing to read out of the Soviet Art of Brainwashing Handbook, Psychopolitics, the Art of Mental Healing. The psychopolitician's realm of defamation and degradation is man himself. By attacking the character and the morals of man himself and bringing about, through contamination of the youth, a general degraded feeling, command of the populace is facilitated to a marked degree. We are talking about degradation and man himself not being able to speak up in a free society. In 2001, I ran for mayor. Since 2001 and before that time, I have never heard of anybody's rights being snuffed out like Jesse's rights. When candidates come here to speak to the city council, and I remember not long ago when the mayor ran in against 4 candidates, they publicized their candidacy. I have never heard anyone stop a candidate from saying they are a candidate, whether for city council or for mayor. And I find it disgusting. And I know the Constitution is not made to suppress free speech. And it aggravates me so. I've been coming here for close to 29 years, and I've never heard of anything like it. And when the attorney for the city pulls out of his hat a obscure situation found in law and perverts it, that's why I testified against the city council, Jim Nugent, several times, that he should not have his contract renewed. I have been in situations where I have heard this man degrade other members of the community so badly. I was in attendance at an employment situation with
And that's 3 minutes, Ms.
okay.
Matthew Jenkins.
But I definitely find this aggravating, and I definitely find Mr. Nugent a purveyor of misleading law.
Any other general public comment this evening?
My name is Bob Moore. This was an article captioned 25 million in errors force Missoula City Council to revise, reapprove 2018 budget resolution. I have to tell you, I don't believe a word in this article. I assume it's a fair representation of the meeting and so forth, but I don't believe a word of it. And let me tell you why. I was at a budget meeting, I think it was the budget of the whole, budget committee of the whole. And I asked, where is the interest on the mountain water bonds and the payments on the bonds? I was told they didn't belong on the Missoula budget. And they couldn't understand, while I was so stupid that I couldn't understand why it didn't belong on the budget. And it was explained that the users of the water was going to pay for the purchase of the city of the Mountain Water Company. I got quite a background in accounting and business, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The facts are the city purchased the Mountain Water Company. Isn't that correct? I think the city purchased the Mountain Water Company, not the citizens out here that are using the water, and that would even include me. I don't know why you play games like this. It was not overlooked or inadvertent area. I brought it up, I don't remember now, 5, 6 weeks ago at that budget committee meeting. Where is the interest expense in the budget? Oh, it don't go in the budget. It's going to be paid by the users of the water. Well, lo and behold, looks like they did decide to put the interest expense into the budget, where it goes, where it should go. And I'm not too familiar with the other items. Apparently the largest one was something to do related to the utilities, water, wastewater, and stormwater. I guess the citizens that use the water was going to pay that, so therefore it's not an expense that the city of Missoula is going to pay. Where are you at? The last sentence on this thing I thought was very interesting. One, because I'm very familiar with Enron. Do you know how closely you're being watched, he asked. And I think that's Tony Ramos' comment. He asked, 25 million is an Enron level accounting error. I would disagree with that a little bit. 25 million wasn't a lot of money as far as Enron went back then. So I think this example you gave, the explanation you gave last meeting, and these articles that got into the Missoula Current, I think this is, and the paper are not correct at all. You clearly knew from one of your dumb citizens that where is the interest rate in the budget? The interest expense and the other related to the water, where is it at in the budget? Wasn't there. Wasn't an oversight.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Any other general public comment this evening? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to our consent agenda. Items on that agenda were approved unanimously in council standing committees. We still have time on Mondays by considering these items all at once.
Thanks. We have 3 items on tonight's consent agenda. Tonight, number 1 is, as always, to approve claims, which are the city's accounts payable, the amount of $549,074.42 for checks that are dated tomorrow, September 26, 2017. Number 2 is to adopt a resolution of the Missoula City Council amending Resolution 8189 to reflect the final budget and appropriation amounts that represent their discussion, deliberation, and decisions reached during the budget process, and affirm their approval of the budget and appropriations and capital improvement program for the city of Missoula set forth in the fiscal year 2018 budget and capital improvement program, including the Tourism Business Improvement District Work Plan and budget for fiscal year 2018, the Business Improvement District Work Plan and budget for fiscal year 2018, the Park District number 1 work plan and budget for fiscal year 2018, and Road District number 1 work plan and budget for fiscal year 2018. And finally, number 3 is to adopt a resolution declaring it to be the intention of the City Council of the City of Missoula, Montana, to close and vacate a portion of public right-of-way known as a portion of Beacon Street, which is located at the north end of Scott Street and bounded on the north by Interstate 90 and on the west by Shakespeare Street. It's legally described as all of Block 22, being a 5-acre tract numbered 22 of the school edition, and setting a public hearing on that matter for October 23rd. Typo on the agenda, it's 2017, not 2107. A little closer than that.
Thank you, Ms. Rabine. Anyone in the audience care to comment on the consent agenda?
Item number 2, with your $25 million. I remember a time when Mike Hadis was mayor and Janet Stevens was the financial officer for the city. I got up and testified against a $120,000 tax by annexation they had laid on the residents of the Rattlesnake. After my testimony, and a couple weeks later, I had Janet Stevens come up to me and say, we found $90,000 in the budget. So you won't have to pay the full $120,000 back to the residents of the Rattlesnake. This is the same thing. The same thing. You find something and then you come back and correct it and add certain things to the list. That's corruption to me. Out and out corruption. And it has to stop. And I think the only way it's going to stop if we get an out-of-state CAFR done. comprehensive annual financial report that's out of this state on this city, because this city has been ripping the taxpayers off for many years.
Anyone else? Mr. Ramos.
Jesse Ramos, Whitaker Drive, Missoula citizen. While I really do appreciate the presentation explaining the $25 million clerical error at last Wednesday's Budget Committee meeting, I still have some questions that remain unanswered, and I'm hoping for clarification tonight. In fiscal year 2016, city budgeted expenditures were $106.7 million. For fiscal year 2017, the figure was $118.4 million. Tonight, the city is scheduled to approve an amendment to Resolution 8189 fixing fiscal year 2018 budgeted expenditures at $159.7 million. $118.4 million to $159.7 million in 1 year is a 33% increase. 33% is massive. If I had a client who was in debt and living paycheck to paycheck come to me and ask how they could spend 33% more than last year, I would tell them they have to go deeper into debt or get another income stream. So, what is the city's additional revenue stream going to be? Is it going to be a sales tax? Is it going to be a gas tax? Is it going to be increased water rates? Is it going to be increased property taxes, higher fees, a combination, or all of the above? Don't we as citizens have a right to know before the next election? Because 23% doesn't just come out of thin air. So what is it going to be, debt or higher taxes?
Anyone else on the consent agenda?
My name is Bob Moore. I would like to second what we just heard. I doubt if we'll hear an answer, though. I doubt it seriously if we'll hear an answer as how the budget and expenditures went up that much. My other point is, I haven't looked at the accounts payment schedule, but any of this $549,074.42 involves the Mountain Water Company. I think it should be broken out and voted on separately or voted against separately. I think we've spent more than enough for Mountain Water. I think the legal fees was going to be $400,000, is my memory right? And if what I'm seeing now is right, it's around $13 million or $15 million. That's a slight underestimate. Thank you.
Anyone else on the consent agenda? Questions or comments from council members? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
On the consent agenda, items 1, 2, 3, Armstrong. Armstrong votes yes. Bentley. Bentley votes yes. Cares. Cares votes yes. Dabari. Dabari votes yes. Heddle. Heddle votes yes. Hess. Hess votes yes. Jones. Jones votes yes. Marlar. Marlar votes yes. Swaney. Swaney votes yes. Von Lossberg. Von Lossberg votes yes. West. West votes yes. And Wilkins. Wilkins votes yes. Would any of you like to change your vote? That's 12 ayes.
And the consent agenda is approved. We'll move on to comments from city staff, agencies, boards, commissions, authorities, and the community forum. We have a report from the Riverfront Neighborhood Council this evening. Ms. Abrams.
Hello. So we had a neighborhood meeting from the Riverfront Neighborhood Council. This is my first time doing this, so bear with me. September 20th, Silver Park in the Pavilion. It was an outdoor meeting. We had about 45 folks. Barbecue. Jonathan Qualvin was the facilitator. Thank you, Mary Laporte, for our notes. So the first thing we talked about was the history of neighborhood councils. That was Jane Kelly. Second thing, a presentation by Ellen Buchanan, the Missoula Redevelopment Agency, explaining tax increment financing, TIFs, for the Sawmill District, Russell Street, California Street, etc. We also talked about California Street, 3rd Street to Dakota reconstruction project. Todd Gass and Jeremy Keene gave a presentation. The attendees voiced the concerns about these different projects, and they were written down. Ed Weatherby, who is principal from the Poly Square project, gave us a brief presentation. Gwen Jones, our 3rd Ward City Council representative, summarized a couple of current initiatives. Thank you, Gwen. Building design standards and affordable housing. We had leadership team elections, and a new group of folks came on. And then the last thing we did before adjournment was the Ward 3 Candidate Forum, which is October 4th at 6 p.m. in the Lewis and Clark Village. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Abrams. We will move on to special presentations. We do have a proclamation this evening. Whereas, ladies and gentlemen, mothers are leaders in our community and in our workforce and are key in raising the next generation. And whereas society tells mothers that they should be perfect and do it all on their own, and whereas mothers need and deserve our respect as well as our support, and whereas mothers should never be ashamed to ask for help, and whereas the City of Missoula is proud to partner with organizations such as Mountain Home to offer therapy, employment support, doula services, parenting classes, life skills classes, and a supportive community to all strong moms who ask for help. Now, therefore, I, John Ingan, Mayor of the City of Missoula in the state of Montana, do hereby recognize the 30th day of September 2017 as Strong Moms Ask for Help Day. We will move on to communications from the mayor. I will pass this evening. We'll start council comments with Ms. Armstrong, Ms. West, Mr. DeBari, Ms. Bentley, Mr. Hess, Mr. Von Lossberg, Mr. Wilkins, Ms. Cares, Ms. Swaney, Ms. Marler, Ms. Heddall, Ms. Jones.
I got 2 things to talk about tonight, so thank you everybody for your time. I appreciate that. First of all, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Unseen Tour, which happened last week. The Historic Preservation Commission put that on. The Unseen Tour is offering people a chance to get into some downtown buildings, into areas that the public doesn't normally see. It was a rainy night, if you recall, last week when this took place. They had over 1,000 people show up, is their estimate. People were standing in line for over an hour in the rain to get into one of these locations. They did as good a job as they could considering the circumstances, but it sounds like it was such a big success. They will be doing this again in the future due to the incredible interest. And just to give you an idea of what they did, they toured the basement of the Hammond Arcade building. It burned down in 31, but this basement goes back to 1880, and there are glimpses of what were underground shops and stores originally accessible from the sidewalk stairs. They went into the Florence building, into what was the bomb shelter from 1964, and still holds original supplies. I don't know about the botulism in those canned foods, but anyway, it's pretty fascinating. In the Florence building, they also toured the historic indoor parking garage and saw how cars used to be lifted and deposited into stacked parking spaces. Pretty cool. And then they also went into the Bluebird Theater in the rear portion of A&E Architects in the Higgins building, I believe. So it was an original theater. There are original posters and movie reels from the cinema in there. So anyway, it's really interesting stuff, and I think our Historic Preservation Commission is going to have to look at expanding this because clearly there's a lot of interest in it. So keep your ears peeled for that. The second item is a purely personal plug. My daughter, Kate Koenig, was listed as one of the Prep Athletes of the Week for the Missoulian. She is the captain of the volleyball team for Hellgate High School. Feel free to go online to themissoulian.com and vote for her. The honor is in being nominated, but then there's an online vote. And currently she's in 4th out of 5th place, but I know there are people out there who just didn't realize today was the day. Anyway, thanks a lot.
We have no committee reports this evening, nor do we have new business. Are there any additional items to be referred tonight? Seeing none of those, any miscellaneous communications, reports, petitions, or announcements? Seeing none, as always, I thank you for your service. We will be adjourned.